Hey, we have a good episode for you today. I'm going to call it The Tale of Two Worlds, lack of a better name. I don't know. Whatever. First thing that popped in my head. We're going to talk about kind of two areas of stocks that we've been watching today and kind of what's going on with them. We're going to talk about a couple tidbits that I watched on a couple different news shows this morning, and they weren't really heralded. It wasn't like this big thing they were trying to mention. Um, but they actually kind of portend something bigger if you're paying attention. So we're going to talk about that, and we're going to talk about streaming services. So the first thing we want to get to today, we're going to talk about the 10-year Treasury. Now, lately, we've talked about that. I'm not going to pull a website up for that, but it's been going up and up. And basically, I think as these budgets get increasingly bigger and these bills get, you have $1 trillion non-omnibus bill, which is insane. I mean, 5 years ago, that would have never even occurred. And an omnibus bill, if you're not familiar with, it just means it funds everything. So it funds every single thing that the federal government spends. It's the big ticket bill. And so when you have a COVID bill, or I'm not even going to call the last bill, that $1.9 trillion, whatever you want to call it, bill, a pork bill maybe, and you start hearing people that are just spending more and more trillions and trillions of dollars, it's going to have to be paid for by something. And right now, we're just putting it on the national credit card, on the national debt. And so what happens is every so often, the Treasury puts out an auction. We're not going to go into a big deal on that. We've actually talked about that in a prior video a couple weeks ago. But it's an auction. And so if there's a ton of buyers, the rates are low. If there aren't a ton of buyers, the rates go higher. So it's just that simple. And so what we've been seeing with these spending bills going up is the question is, are these people going to be paid back? And in 10 years, yeah, they're probably going to be paid back. 30 years, I don't know. And there's even a question on 10 years. So people have not necessarily bought the same amount as normal, and so the rates have gone up. But what happens with that is the cost of borrowing goes up, which means that people, if they're looking for a safe haven for money, if they're 70 years old, then they're probably not going to be in the stock market as much. They're going to trim that portfolio and put it elsewhere. And keep in mind, you have the baby boomers, which still retain a ton of stock market valuation. So that's kind of where that's going. But at the same time, when it comes to margin debt, some people just pull back on that as well. So because they're paying more for margin debt. So I was watching Charles Payne today. We're going to watch a couple minutes of that right now. And we're going to talk about him specifically talking about how typically as the rates have gone up for 10-year treasuries, the stocks have gone down, especially tech stocks, because the valuations are so high. But he brings up a good point, which we're going to address today, which I've never heard anybody address before. All right.
With respect to what's happening right now, I'm starting to get the sense, Jim, that the street is getting accustomed to the notion that bond yields are going to go higher. It feels like the shock factor is wearing off. If that's the case, I do want your thoughts on that, and also, where is the best place to be positioned right now?
Well, certainly, I agree with you, Charles. I think that the bond yields the problem is not their level. I mean, at 170 or 165, that's not really challenging in an economy that's.
All right, so a couple things here. He basically said that initially there was a shock value. I know, like, oh my gosh, the bonds went up and everybody starts clutching their pearls. And now it's, that it's kind of not there anymore. And so maybe kind of the illusion there is that people are getting used to this and it may not affect them anymore. In other words, they're getting numb to it. But then his guest, Jim Paulson, who I don't know if he's related to Hank Paulson, the guy who did the bailout in 2008, scumbag, he basically said, look, 1.67 is not that high of a rate. I mean, you have to consider it's been a lot higher in the past. So that's kind of a little bit of background on what he's talking about.
Might grow as much as 8% this year. The problem is the speed of their advance. And if they go up 50 basis points a month, the stock market's going to essentially crater under that eventually. But if they go up and then pause, which I think they are doing, I think the stock market's going to deal with that quite well. And yields are going to continue to go higher. I think they may reach 2% later this year. But if they do that in a stair-step fashion, the type of growth we're likely to have this year in spending and GDP and in profits is more than enough to withstand a 2% yield and still move higher in the interim. So all
right. So basically what he said is, he said if you take the short-term growth in 10% or 10-year treasuries and you do it every month, then yeah, it's going to crush the stock market, because realistically, and it's pretty much true in everything. I mean, even if you look at this here. It'll go up, it'll retreat, it'll go up, it'll retreat, it'll go up, it'll retreat. What he's saying is if it continues to do that, we'll be fine. So just one thing I noticed on that. Secondly, and you're going to go through my YouTube TV, so pardon me for that. Where is... Oh, there it is down here. Duh. All right. So it's a claimant countdown. She's not in today, but Cheryl Casoni is her background, her backup host. So this will launch in a second. All right. And then she's bringing a guy who's doing a remote. That's just a term in media where a guy basically is reporting from outside the studio. So, all right. So they're going to talk about airline routes. And this is very important. So we're going to hit on this.
Well, I mean, I got to say something, Cheryl. I mean, first of all, these stimulus packages are a joke.
Right.
And that'll be.
I got everybody's nicknames in today, so that's good. It's good to see you guys. Maybe we'll see each other in person soon.
Thanks, Cheryl.
All right, good to see both of you. Well, as shipping struggles, the airline industry is preparing for takeoff with all major U.S. airlines adding new routes in just the past few weeks. Airline companies are expecting a rise in leisure travel this summer as the vaccine rollout continues and as statewide COVID-19 restrictions ease. But will we see air travel numbers return to pre-pandemic levels anytime soon? Grady Trumbull joins us now live from Chicago's O'Hare Airport. Grady.
Cheryl, might take a little longer for work travel to come back, but already today, not so much right now, but earlier it was quite busy, the busiest I've seen it since the pandemic started. And a lot of this is leisure travel. Spring break is right now, and a lot of people are finally feeling comfortable getting on a plane once again. And because of that, all of the major airlines are adding routes. As you mentioned, United, the latest to do so. These routes will start at the end of May, and you can see on this map where people are going this summer or planning to go. A lot of people heading down to the south where the lockdowns aren't as strict, in Florida, Georgia, South Carolina. People going to places in New England like Portland, Maine, and then out in the Mountain West. Bozeman, Montana is going to be a popular destination this summer. We've been talking to travelers today, and they do tell us, you know what, I'm vaccinated or my loved ones are now vaccinated. So for the first time in a long time, I feel like a burden is lifted and it's safe to go see them. Listen.
Big weight, man. I mean, you know, when you feel like you're safe when you're traveling, you don't feel like you have to be as careful. You don't make it, you know, if you make a mistake, you're not going to be affected. So it's been huge for me, and I travel for work all the time.
And the numbers reflect that sentiment there. If you look at the past 15 days, all of them, more than 1 million people have gone through TSA checkpoints. Look at the numbers from just yesterday, 1.4 million people crossing through TSA checkpoints. You asked about pre-pandemic travel numbers. Not quite that when we were seeing more than 2 million people every single day, but way more than a year ago this time, and even more than 6 months ago, if you compare that to yesterday's numbers or the past 15 days numbers. So some finally promising news for the airline industry, Cheryl, in what has been an extremely challenging year for them because people are planning again. Do you remember that feeling?
Yeah, oh, sort of. But I will tell you, every time I've been on a plane in the last 3 months, they've been packed. I don't know if that's because of less capacity or if because people are just anxious to fly.
Well, that's what it is. They cut so many routes because the demand wasn't there, and so any plane that you were on practically was full, but now they're adding routes back, and so you might get lucky and not be on such a busy plane, but also, you know, the number of people flying is going up too.
Yeah,
so.
well,
All right, so a couple things on there I want you to notice is number one, we're not anywhere near the pre-pandemic flight, but the numbers are going up. I can tell you, having flown in the last week or two, that some of most of the flights that I were on were full. I mean, I had an aisle seat or a window seat, and the middle seat was empty. And that's going to be the case for a while. But they're full. And I think what you're seeing the airlines is they've kind of made an agreement that they're going to box out the middle seat. And then once their planes are full and they get a little bit more demand, once it gets to a certain point, they're adding more routes, which is really important. Especially, you know, my brother's a pilot, and we were talking about that, and he said point blank that the number of routes is going up, and his schedule, you know, is getting busier. So that's kind of out there. So one of the things you want to look out there is you want to look for things when you're watching online is if you look and do a Google search, whatever, look for them adding routes, right? Whether and then you want to look whether it's domestic or whether it's international because that makes a big difference. Secondly, and this is going to be down the line, it's not going to be yet, but this is when you know we're officially, this is the birth pains of, death pains or whatever of COVID officially going away, is when you start to see airlines saying that they're going to be selling middle seats. Now that's going to be the first tip off that things are going to jump off massively. So just mark my words, write this down today, put it on a Sharpie on a whiteboard or whatever with a dry erase marker. Sharpies probably won't help because they're permanent. But that's number one. And then secondly, you notice this guy is wearing a mask, right? The minute that they say, okay, they're going to reduce the requirement for masks in an airport, and again, he's not even at the gate. He's just in a corner of the, kind of the check-in area of the airport. That's when you'll start to see some signs that things are moving forward. So, all right, so we covered that today. We're going to cover today streaming services. So we'll hit on that right now. One of the things that I noticed today, if you guys look at, we're going to get into the holdings I have here. I am taking a bath right now on Fubo. Not typically a COVID stock, which is probably my fault, but all the things were lining up in the right place. So I wanted to see why that was. And again, I was watching today and I found out that there was actually a tie-in, but it's more of a systematic tie-in. So this was an article that was written a couple days ago, why streaming stocks plunged today. So it's not just Fubo. So what happened is there were two stocks that really took off in the last year. Okay, one was Viacom CBS, and they own Paramount Network and a number of other things, and then Discovery as well. And they just went through the roof. I mean, I think they were like 800% up. And so what happens is people are doing what I'm telling you guys to do. The smart money is taking profits. Now, it doesn't mean you sell all of it, but you'll sell some of it, most of it, half of it, whatever. And then what you're seeing is the stock price goes down. And they've been actually taking a bath. And so I think what's happened with this is, and then also Viacom actually started offering more stocks. So they're going to be doing a stock offering, for $3 billion, which is just going to dilute the shares of the stocks that are out there. So I think what happened is Fubo got caught in here. So it's down 42%, which granted, I hate that right now. But if you remember back in the day, if you've watched these videos for a while, I had a stock XAN, which is now ACR, and we're going to talk, we're not talking about ACR, but it's a commercial REIT. It's a commercial real estate REIT. And it just took a bath. It was close to 40%, and then it came back and got in the red. So right now, this one is just kind of getting, it's kind of one of those things when you're in class and somebody says, somebody's chewing gum or whatever, and the teacher asks who's chewing gum, and nobody rats each other out. And the teacher says, fine, if one of you guys won't tell me who's doing it, then I'm just going to punish the whole class. And so that is what's happening here. So right now, it's not a big deal. We're sitting here down $5,000. That's not the end of the world. But one of the things I am looking at doing is finding ways where we can get these sell orders in here and liquidate some of these stocks. And again, some of these are close. Next ID is very close, and AHT is very close. We're going to do that. We're actually going to do some buying to try to drive this price point down. So to get it down from 37 to under 30. And then when this bounces back up to 30, we're going to be in a really, really good place. All right, so that's kind of some of the things that are going on there. So we do address that. And then today, I did want to address what I call the reds. So we're going to address kind of stocks, some trends and things I've noticed with the stocks that are in the reds. Okay, specifically, the first thing we're going to talk about is outside of Fubo here. We're not really in the red that much. $200, $300, $100. Fuel cell will be fine. That's going to come back. And when when the infrastructure bill comes in, I think you're going to see, yes, that $3 trillion infrastructure bill. You're going to see this one coming back with a roar because Biden's going to want to do infrastructure for electric vehicles. I guarantee you that's going to be a part of it. And with that, you're going to see not necessarily government building of charging stations, but subsidizing companies that already do. So if you haven't gotten in on fuel cells so far, it's time to do so. But other than that, $300 or $400, whatever, $200. Penn is down, but this is a gambling stock. I'm not too worried about that. 200, 1200 skills, which is ironic because this company is just poised to crush it. If you haven't bought this one yet, I'm telling you, get in while it's under 20 right now. It'll be a great, great decision that you have. But we haven't really talked about trends too much. So we're going to go down here. And this is actually over the last month, I don't know, 3, 4 weeks or so, I decided I really wanted to get an eye on the sectors of what I invested in. So I have travel, entertainment, oil, casinos. And when I say casinos, I also mean betting, online betting too. Biden stocks, which are typically electric vehicles, and then other, which they just kind of don't really fall into one category or another, and then crypto. So what I've noticed here is travel's crushing it, obviously. I mean, the only ones are down or barely down. Those will be up fine. But this is where I have a big investment, basically 70 grand in this one. 40,000 invested, 70 grand in there. I'm up 30 grand on that right now. Entertainment, same thing. This one, Cinemark will be fine. It's a movie theater chain. I'm telling you, when you see Top Gun come out, you're going to see a lot of emotional people get back into movie theaters. Again, I'm the guy who bought AMC back in November and December because I was eyeing this ahead of time. And I bought this at $2.30 a share. So I'm telling you, Cinemark, I'm not going to say it's going to be a meme stock, but I'm telling you, get in on that before those movies come out because it'll make a big difference. But they're up 40% right now. Oil, if you guys have been paying attention, they had the Supermax ship gets stuck in the Suez Canal because they're going through it. And this thing is this huge ship. And the Suez Canal is, there's this one narrow channel where ships go in. This guy's barely fitting through it, going straight. And they had a 45 mile an hour side wind that came in, maybe 50 miles an hour, and a sandstorm, and it blew the ship sideways, and it got stuck in the canal. So it's literally blocking the Suez Canal. And so ships either have to wait and see how fast that thing's going to get dredged out, and they're literally going to have to dig underneath the ship to free all the dirt from it by hand, which is a crazy amount of underwater diving and dredging and things like that. And they're either going to wait there or they're going to go around the Horn of Africa, which takes another 2 weeks. So the price of oil is doing nice right now, but that's just a small little blip on the radar. I would take advantage of, you're not going to take advantage of oil because the price is going up, but I'm telling you, things are going up, demand's going up. We talked about the airlines going up, using more fuel. People are going on road trips. People are, the economy's open up right now. It's spring break. You're going to see some really big numbers coming out, especially in this oil sector. But we're up 150% in that one, which is nice. Casinos, again, the same things. We're down in a couple, MGM and Penn. This is going to be in the S&P 500 within a matter of days, so I'm not worried about that at all. This one's going to crush it. And then Penn National Gaming probably has one of the biggest footprints, if not the biggest footprint, for online gambling. So, at some point, I'm going to invest more in this one as well. So I would make sure you do that. But then the big ones, the one they call Reds, are these freaking others. Now, we're not going to talk about Biden's just because they're so small. These are the ones that I'm actually trying to get out of. And I made this decision. If you've watched this video over the last few weeks, I said I'm going to pare this out. This was based off of going to a restaurant here in California where they did indoor dining totally surreptitiously against the rules. And it was packed like pre-COVID March Madness packed. And I said, man, I got to start focusing money in the recovery stocks. And so I pared some of the stuff down, but the ones where you see the biggest hit, if you've seen the value of the portfolio, which has gone down a little bit in the last couple of weeks and kind of stabilized, it's all these Biden stocks or all these other stocks. So basically, there's going to be a period of time where it's gone down, but it will go back up. I mean, these are like legitimately quality stocks here. Corsair is a gaming stock, a gaming hardware chip company. Fubo has a 100% buy rating. I mean, that's a joke. Next ID is a cybersecurity. Signet Jewelers, I mean, it's up 800%. So what are you going to say about that? And I'm letting this sucker ride because I've already cashed in some of the stuff, most of the holdings that I had in it. Skills has an excellent leadership team and board of directors. So, that one's going to be fine, even though it's down 31%. I'm probably going to throw more money at Skills once I get some of these sold. And then Verint, which is a cyber company. So again, I'm trying to pare these down, and this was my whole goal on trying to do more of these top four: travel, entertainment, oil, and casino. So am I really shocked that this happened? Not really. But once these get back to zero, I'm going to trade these almost at the cost that I had on there because I don't really care. I want to reinvest in the other ones. And I'm not really super interested in getting some massive gain from them. Some of them I might keep in the short term. I'm not saying I'm getting rid of all of them. But I noticed all the red ones are the ones that I was already starting to pair out anyway. And all the ones that are doing really well are the ones that I wanted to focus on. So as we look at this and we look at, kind of what the portfolio's done over the last week or so. So we'll break it out over the last week. Is where we had it up here at 166,000, 170,000. It's gone down. Most of this loss, I mean, it got down to 138 of all things. Were these other stocks. So once these go up, and I'm telling you, Next ID, once that goes in the black, I have a sell order on that. Once Corsair goes in the black, I have a sell order on that. And Variant, even though it has a 100% buy rating or 93 or something like that, we're going to free that up. So that's what? That's $5,000, 11 grand, 14, 15 grand, and we're going to reinvest in some other ones and bring our cost basis down. So we talk about the good, we talk about the bad, but we don't necessarily want to look at it as good or bad. We want to look at the why. What is happening and why is it happening? Why are stocks going up 800%? And we've addressed those in prior videos. Why is the travel area up 66%? And if only I had invested more money in there, that'd be nice. Or 66%. Why is the oil going up 150%? When you understand the why, you understand what to invest in, how much, and when. So with that being said, I'm at a point right now where most people are like, oh my gosh, it's going down. Maybe we should abandon this or whatever. And it's like, get your freaking emotions out of it. You don't buy your big screen TV, in the middle of April. You buy it the day after Thanksgiving or on Thanksgiving night because there's clearance sales. And so when you look at this right now, you want to try to find the clearance sales and get in on those. And for right now, one of the things, just to give you an idea of kind of some other things that I'm looking at, I have one from Marlin Finance. That's the one that does infrastructure and asset, big asset purchases for companies. And this one went down, and I every time it goes down, because I hadn't bought it yet, I'm just dropping it more and more. So it's sitting here at 14. I had it at 13.50 or 14.50. I'm just going to keep low bidding it, and maybe I won't buy it for a while. But right now, I have a cost at 13. So with that being said, we have a nice little bullpen. Sabre is the next one up that we'll probably look at if we're going to buy any of these. Sabre will probably be the next one that we do as well. But that's kind of the game plan going forward. But I'm telling you right now, there's a lot of money on the sidelines. People are taking profits on some of them. A lot of it's 10-year. But you got to look at the big picture. What's really going on? Winter is ending in a lot of cities. It's spring break. People are traveling more. Remember how the guy in that video said, remember planning? Remember how we used to do planning and they all chuckled about that? We're never going to be in the new normal, guys. We're always going to be in the regular normal. So get your stocks ready. If you have any questions about any particular stocks you want to look at, any criticisms, you want to flame me up, that's fine. Go ahead. Just shoot me a message and let me know that. But other than that, man, this is the time, I'm telling you, the time when the market's down or when people are doubting the market are the times when you're going to make the most money. So with that being said, we'll take a look at the market going forward, kind of Monday going forward. But I did want to notice one thing. Here in San Diego, we're down to 2.5% positivity. And I looked at all these, and it's literally the lowest it's ever been since coronavirus. So we are at the lowest positivity rate. And you want to, and again, what I just said, you want to know why. Well, you take the amount of vaccinations that are going on, which are accelerating every day. In fact, they just announced here in San Diego that anybody over 16, because they got a massive vaccine dose supply, will be able to get a vaccine starting next week. You take the amount of people that are vaccinated and the amount of people that get herd immunity. And out here in California, they're estimating it, especially in Southern California, anywhere from 30 to 50% of the people already have natural immunity to COVID. You're going to be looking at, having 80% of the population be immune to COVID. So you're going to have less people testing positive because the virus doesn't have any place to go. If I have it and I breathe on you, and you're vaccinated, what do you care? You're not getting it. And it's just harder to track. There's very few cases, and you're going to start to see this go away. So be ahead of the curve. Don't be behind the curve. Don't listen to the media as a whole. Don't listen to their talking points. Notice what they're saying in the background and notice what they're not saying. And that is where the smart money is made. So I will see you guys next week.
To get more information on the sales cheat code, go ahead and click on the subscribe button below. Also, down below in the video description, down there, there's a link that takes you to our website that gives you additional content, some additional freebies that we have, and gives you information on some programs that we have that have been proven to help people to make sales easy so that you can make the kind of money you want, live the lifestyle that you've always wanted, and not have to struggle in the process. And what might be the coolest thing of all is you don't have to put much effort into it. It truly is a cheat code that most people don't know about. And it's a cheat code that can change your life today. So click on the link below and let me help you start to experience these results starting right now.